A law extending his own mandate for 2 years, the state news agency reported late on Tuesday night, setting the Horn of Africa nation on a collision course with its donors who strongly oppose the move. Meanwhile, the United States says it is deeply disappointed by Somalia's approval of legislation that extends the term of the president and members of parliament by 2 years. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in a statement on Tuesday that implementation of this bill will pose serious obstacles to dialogue and further undermine peace and security in Somalia. The African Union, European Union, United Nations and regional bloc, the International Intergovernmental Authority on Development, that is IGAD, said in a joint statement on Saturday that they will not support any extension of the president's term. Somalia's lower house of parliament voted on Monday to extend President Mohammed Mohammed Farmajo's 4-year term, which expired in February, for another 2 years. The Senate rejected the move. The political crisis threatens to deepen Somalia's division, distracting attention from the fight against the Islamist Al-Shabaab insurgency, which has killed thousands of civilians in the region in the past 12 years. And now I'm joined by Ashley Mazuri to give us more details and context in regards to this particular story. Over to you, Ashley.
All right, thank you very much. No, of course, that move by President Farmajo has received a lot of opposition, and we want to discuss this. And joining me is Dr. Ahmed Hashi, who is Horn of Africa analyst, joining us from our City Center studios. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed, for joining us. Now, let's talk about this move by President Farmajo. He did sign that controversial law extending his 2-year terms, but also the Speaker of the Senate slammed the move as unconstitutional. So even as we question the legitimacy of this law, what implications does it have for Somalia?
Well, I think first of all, Mr. Farmajo has done a reckless thing. It is a reckless attempt at authoritarianism. The very apex, or the very center of the Somali crisis, was due to authoritarianism and movements that overthrew a dictatorship in that country. And I think that Mr. Farmajo has made a huge mistake, and you could see the reaction of the region, you could see the reaction of the international community. It is not acceptable for this region and in the Horn of Africa for someone inside Villa Somalia to act in such a way. It should be condemned in the strongest possible terms. And the implications, if I can answer your question directly, is that there could be a slippery slope to violence. There could be a slippery slope to return to clan factionalism. And this is precisely what the region has been trying to avoid. And I think that it's a sad day for Somalia today to have a president who's refused to go into an election, to give up power legitimately. It is symptomatic of actually the African continent's malaise about trying to institute something called democratic government.
All right, even as we continue questioning this move, there have been threats by the military. They're saying they're going to take control of the airport and the port. What exactly does this mean for Somalia, considering there's so much uncertainty, not forgetting that the Al-Shabaab initially had threatened that they will attack before the polls?
You see, the issue is the buck stops with the president. We could criticize the opposition for being intransigent and for not playing ball and for giving the president a hard time. But at the end of the day, the former president Abdullahi Yusuf, who passed away about a few years ago, when push came to shove, he resigned from the position instead of causing more conflict inside Somalia. It seems Mr. Farmajo, with all the rhetoric of nationalism and trying to bring back Somalia back on its feet, right now what Somalia needs from him is for him to come down to the grassroots, find a way in which he could deal with the opposition and the country at large, and find a process in which there will be a fairly representative democracy. You know that in Somalia, it is an electoral college that elects the president, and it's not a direct vote. So he has said that he's taking a one-man, one-vote within 2 years. This is virtually impossible. No dent has been made in the Al-Shabaab. The infrastructure and the political economy of having elections in Somalia is impossible right now, impossible in the next 24 months. So I think this is just propaganda in politics, and the region has to call him to account, and the region has to talk to his allies and make sure that President Farmajo changes his behavior so that Somalia could have an electoral college election. And if he wins that election, that's no problem. He could get the second term, but he should not come through power through the back door.
You've mentioned the elusive direct vote, and this is something that has been, discussed in Somalia in length and has not been achieved. But here we are having a president who is grabbing power, and then here on the other hand we're having a different opposition that are not really agreeing to the electoral processes. So then what exactly, or what options does Somalia have even as we try moving forward?
Well, Somalia is suffering from political dwarfism because the opposition itself is not men who can be trusted with power. The last two presidents were just as intransigent and got extensions, and all kinds of monkey business used to happen there. But with President Farmajo, he set a standard. He said that he was better than what had come before him, and people's expectations were higher. Now that everybody is feeling betrayed, and that Mr. Farmajo is not the Democrat that everybody thought he was, their reaction is larger and much more intense. So you could see the international community has said they're not going to recognize Mr. Farmajo. By saying they're not going to recognize an extension, that is a statement that's saying they're not going to recognize Mr. Farmajo as president of Somalia. The worst thing that could happen now is for the opposition to create a parallel system and elect a parallel president, and that would set alight Mogadishu into violence. So I think that would be a wrong move on their part as well. So what I think needs to happen is there to be intense pressure to be brought to Mr. Farmajo so that there could be a 60-day process in which an electoral college could be formed quickly, and there could be an election, and the decision of the parliament, which is patently illegal, should be put aside.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Hashi, Horn of Africa analyst, of course, joining us from our City Center studios. As you have mentioned, it is a sad day for Africa, a sad day for Somalia, and especially for democracy. So we will see what happens in the next couple of days. Noah, that is the situation in Somalia. Back